The alarm systems at the United Nations Space Monitoring Station screamed into the night. Dr. Hannah rushed from her desk to the main display screen, coffee spilling from her trembling hands. What she saw made her blood run cold. 17 massive objects had appeared at the edge of the solar system, each one larger than any spacecraft humanity had ever imagined. She grabbed her phone and dialed, "Commander Tae-jin at military headquarters." Her voice shook as she spoke. "Sir, we have a situation. Multiple unknown objects just entered our solar system. They're huge. They're not asteroids or comets. These things are moving with purpose." Tae-jin arrived at the monitoring station within 20 minutes. He stood behind Hana, studying the data flowing across her screens. The objects were decelerating in perfect formation. No natural phenomenon could explain this. These were ships. Alien ships. And they were heading straight for Earth. "How long do we have?" Tae-jin asked, his voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. Hannah's fingers flew across her keyboard, running calculations. At their current speed, they'll reach orbital range in 72 hours. Maybe less if they accelerate. Within an hour, every major government on Earth knew about the approaching fleet. Emergency meetings were called. Military forces were placed on high alert. Scientists scrambled to understand what they were facing. The world held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's first contact with alien life would be peaceful or violent. Captain Daeho commanded. Earth's experimental defense satellite network from a facility buried deep in the mountains of Korea. His satellites were designed to track space debris and deflect small asteroids. They were never meant to face a military threat. Now he watched helplessly as the alien fleet drew closer. Knowing his weapons were toys compared to what was coming, the aliens made their intentions clear on the second day. A transmission reached Earth in multiple languages, somehow translated perfectly into every major tongue spoken by humans. The message was simple and terrifying. This world has been designated for harvest. Evacuate to your planet's surface and await processing. Resistance will result in immediate elimination. Tae-jin sat in the emergency council meeting with military leaders and government officials from around the world. Panic filled the room. Some suggested surrender. Others wanted to fight. Most knew that either choice would likely end in humanity's destruction. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," said Ambassador Tae-jin, his face pale but determined. "Have we identified who these beings are?" Dr. Yuna, a linguist and expert in theoretical xenocommunications, stood to address the council. She had been analyzing the transmission signal and comparing it to radio signals collected over decades from deep space. "I found something," she said. "This isn't the first time these aliens have sent this exact message. We've intercepted fragments of similar transmissions before, but we always thought they were just cosmic noise. Now I realized they were warnings from dying civilizations." She pulled up data on the main screen. "I've identified at least 12 other worlds that received this same message over the past century. Every one of those planets has gone silent. No more radio signals. No more signs of life? Nothing." The room fell into horrified silence. They weren't facing invaders who wanted to conquer Earth. They were facing something far worse. These aliens were harvesters who stripped entire worlds clean and moved on to the next target. Tae-jin studied the pattern of previous attacks. The aliens followed a predictable method. They would arrive, issue their warning, then systematically dismantle a planet's defenses before beginning the harvest. Every civilization that tried to fight was crushed within days. Every civilization that surrendered was enslaved and eventually destroyed anyway. "We can't win a direct fight," Tae-jin said quietly. "And we can't surrender, so we need to do something they don't expect." A young civilian programmer named Ji-woo raised his hand nervously. He had been recruited by the military for his expertise in artificial intelligence and data analysis. "What if we don't have to win?" he suggested. "What if we just need to make them think twice about attacking us?" Tae-jin turned to face him. "Explain." Ji-woo pulled up information about the alien fleet's formation and behavior. "Look at how they move. Everything is calculated. Everything is efficient. These aren't warriors looking for glory. They're businessmen looking for profit. They harvest worlds because it's easy and profitable. But what if they believed Earth wasn't easy? What if they thought the cost would be too high? Lieutenant Bo Ra, a cyber warfare specialist, caught on to Jiwoo's thinking. You want to bluff them. Make them think we're more dangerous than we actually are. Exactly, Jiwoo replied. We can't beat them with our real weapons, but maybe we can beat them with their own fear. Tae-jin felt a spark of hope for the first time since the fleet appeared. It was a desperate plan. It might not work, but it was better than waiting to die. How would we do it? He asked. Dr. Yuna stepped forward. We craft a message. Not a plea for mercy or a declaration of war. Something that makes them pause. Something that suggests Earth survives something even worse than them. We have 72 hours, Tae-jin said, looking around the room at the gathered experts. We'll need linguists, programmers, military strategists, and anyone who understands psychology and fear. We're going to send these aliens a message they'll never forget. The council approved the plan, mainly because no one had a better idea. Tae-jin assembled his team immediately. They moved into a secure facility and began working around the clock. They had 3 days to save humanity, not with weapons or shields, but with words and deception. Captain Daeho prepared his satellite network for one purpose: delivering the message with enough power that the aliens couldn't ignore it. His weapons were useless against the fleet, but his communications arrays were the most powerful humanity had ever built. As the alien fleet drew closer, Earth cities erupted into chaos. Some people fled to underground bunkers. Others gathered with their families, preparing for the end. Religious leaders held prayers. Scientists worked frantically on impossible weapons. The military mobilized every soldier, knowing it wouldn't be enough, but in the secure facility, Tae-jin and his team worked with focused intensity. They weren't trying to stop the end of the world with force. They were trying to stop it with the oldest trick in human history, making the enemy afraid to find out. If you're as dangerous as you claim to be, the clock counted down. 60 hours, 48 hours, 36 hours. The alien fleet grew larger in Earth's telescopes, close enough now to be seen as individual ships. Each vessel bristled with weapons that could crack continents. Humanity had never felt so small, so helpless, so close to extinction. Tae-jin looked at his exhausted team. They had barely slept. They had worked through every doubt and fear. Now their plan was ready. It was time to send the message and pray that somewhere among those alien commanders was one who would listen, one who would hesitate, one who would decide that maybe Earth wasn't worth the risk. Send it, Tae-jin ordered. Daeho initiated the transmission sequence. Every satellite, every radio telescope, every communications dish on Earth powered up simultaneously. The message launched into space, racing toward the alien fleet at the speed of light. Now they could only wait and hope. The facility hummed with nervous energy as Tae-jin's team gathered around the central workstation. They had less than 70 hours to create a message that would save humanity. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on their shoulders, but they couldn't afford to think about that. They had to focus on the work. Dr. Yuna spread out everything she had learned about the alien fleet across multiple screens. I've been analyzing their communications, she explained to the team. These beings call themselves the Valfic Collective. They've harvested 17 civilizations over the past 1,000 years. Every single one. Wu studied the patterns in the data. They're efficient. They never waste resources on prolonged battles. When they encounter heavy resistance, they simply increase their firepower until the opposition collapses. But look at this. He pointed to an anomaly in the historical records. 15 years ago, they approached a world called Kelthos. They sent their standard harvest warning, but then something strange happened. The Valfic fleet stopped advancing for 3 weeks before finally attacking. What made them hesitate? Tae-jin asked, leaning closer to the screen. Yuna pulled up the intercepted transmissions from that incident. The Kelthian civilization sent back a message claiming they had defeated something called the Void Plague. That had consumed their neighboring star systems. They implied the plague was still present, contained but dangerous. The Valthic spent weeks analyzing the claim before deciding it was a bluff. But they did hesitate, Lieutenant Baon noted. Even the mighty Valthic can feel fear. They just need a good enough reason. Taejin paced the room, his mind working through possibilities. So we need to make them believe Earth survived something terrible. Something that might still be here. Something dangerous enough that even checking if it's real isn't worth the risk. But what? Jiwoo asked. We can't just make up a fictional threat. They'll scan our planet and see through the lie immediately. Dr. Yuna smiled grimly. We don't make it up. We use the truth. Just not the way they'd expect. She began pulling up files from Earth's military archives. Nuclear test footage from the 1950s, biological warfare containment procedures, videos of chemical weapon disposal, footage from humanity's darkest moments of destruction. To us, these are shameful parts of our history. Weapons we created and hopefully will never use again. But to an outside observer who doesn't understand context, these could look like something very different. Understanding dawned on Taejin's face. We frame them as defensive measures. Not weapons we created, but weapons we developed to fight something else. Something we defeated but barely survived. Exactly, Yuna confirmed. We compile all of this footage and present it as evidence of a conflict. We don't explain what we fought. We let their imagination fill in the gaps. Fear of the unknown is always stronger than fear of the known. The team worked through the night, carefully selecting and editing footage. They pulled clips of nuclear explosions, but captioned them as atmospheric purification protocols. Videos of biological containment facilities became post-conflict quarantine zones. Footage of military exercises transformed into ongoing defensive training against potential resurgence. Wu worked on the technical aspects, ensuring the message would be transmitted in formats the Valthic could receive and decode. The Ura added layers of sophisticated encryption that would make the message appear more important and secretive than it actually was. The aliens would have to work to decrypt it, which would make them take it more seriously. Dr. Hana joined the team with astronomical data. I've been reviewing our solar system's characteristics. There's something we can use. She displayed star charts showing nearby systems. About 300 years ago, there was a gamma ray burst from a star 12 light-years away. The radiation would have reached Earth around the same time humans started industrializing. We can imply that event was related to our supposed conflict. Perfect, Taejin said. It's a real astronomical phenomenon they can verify. It makes our story more believable because parts of it are absolutely true. Ambassador Kijun reviewed their work, his diplomatic experience helping shape the message's tone. We need to be careful here. If we sound too threatening, they'll see us as a danger that needs to be eliminated immediately. If we sound too weak, they'll attack anyway. We need to hit the exact middle ground where we seem dangerous enough to avoid, but not so dangerous they have to destroy us. Yuna drafted the core message, writing and rewriting it dozens of times. Each word was chosen with precision. The message had to be clear enough to understand, but vague enough to terrify. The final message read, "To the approaching fleet. Your designation of this world as a harvest target has been noted. Be advised that Earth is a quarantine zone following successful containment of a Class Omega extinction event. Defensive protocols remain active. Atmospheric and subsurface decontamination is ongoing. While the primary threat has been neutralized, residual effects persist. Any breach of quarantine protocols may trigger defensive responses and potential re-emergence of dormant threat vectors. This world is marked for observation, not contact. Approach is not recommended." Wu looked at the message and whistled softly. That's beautifully vague. Class Omega extinction event sounds official but means nothing. Defensive protocols could be anything. And dormant threat vectors is nightmare, fuel for any species that's seen civilizations fall to plagues or weapons they couldn't control. Will they believe it? Daeho asked via video link from his command center. They don't have to fully believe it, Taejin replied. They just have to think there's a chance it might be true. That's enough to make them reconsider. The team attached the carefully selected video files to the message. Each clip was labeled with technical-sounding designations. Containment Protocol 7. Decontamination Sequence 42. Defensive Response Demonstration 15. The footage showed humanity's weapons, but framed them as reactions to a threat, not aggression. Bora added one final touch. She included fragments of radio signals from the past century, Earth's normal broadcasts of television, radio, and early internet communications. But she corrupted them, made them look damaged or deliberately obscured. This makes it look like we're hiding something, she explained. Like we don't want them to know too much about what happened here. With 48 hours remaining before the fleet reached strike range, the message was complete. Taejin reviewed it one final time with his team. They all knew it was a desperate gamble. The Valthic might see through their deception immediately. They might even become angry at the attempted trick and attack more aggressively, but they also might pause. They might hesitate. They might decide that an easy harvest wasn't worth the risk of encountering whatever had supposedly ravaged Earth 300 years ago. This is it, Taejin said, looking at each team member. Dr. Yuna, your linguistics work is brilliant. Jiwoo, your technical execution is flawless. The Bora, your encryption and misdirection are perfect. Dr. Hana, your astronomical correlation adds credibility. Captain Daeho, your transmission systems will deliver this with power they can't ignore. Ambassador Kijun, your diplomatic insight gave this the right tone. We've done everything we can. He paused, feeling the weight of what they were about to do. If this works, we'll have bought humanity time to prepare real defenses. If it fails, at least we tried something instead of just waiting to die. Either way, we're about to find out if human cleverness can match alien firepower. Taejin gave the order. Send the message. All frequencies. Maximum power. Let's see if we can make the Valthic collective afraid of Earth. Daeho initiated the transmission. Every satellite dish, every radio telescope, every communications array on Earth focused on the approaching fleet. The message launched into the void, carrying with it humanity's last, best hope for survival. The message raced through space at light speed. In approximately 6 hours, it would reach the Valthic fleet. Then they would know if fear could accomplish what weapons could not. The team sat in exhausted silence, too nervous to celebrate, too anxious to rest. They had played humanity's card. Now they waited to see if the dealer would call their bluff. The message reached the Valthic fleet exactly 6 hours and 17 minutes after transmission. On the bridge of the command vessel, Warlord Krethva received the communication with irritation. Primitive worlds always tried to bargain or beg. This one would be no different. He prepared to dismiss the message without reading it, but something about the encryption signature made him pause. The message wasn't a plea. It wasn't even addressed to him specifically. It read like a warning marker, the kind of beacon civilizations left around quarantine zones or dangerous spatial anomalies. Krethva felt the first small seed of doubt take root in his mind. He ordered his intelligence officers to analyze the transmission. They worked quickly, decrypting the attached files and studying the footage. What they saw made them uncomfortable. The humans had weapons capable of splitting atoms. They had developed biological agents that could wipe out entire populations. The footage showed devastation on a scale that suggested these beings had fought something terrible and survived. It could be propaganda, his chief intelligence officer suggested nervously. These primitives might be trying to appear more dangerous than they are. Then why use encryption? Krethva asked. If this was meant to intimidate us, they would have broadcast it openly. This message was encoded as if they were genuinely warning us away from a contaminated zone. He ordered the fleet to halt its advance. The 17 massive vessels stopped their approach, hovering at the edge of Earth's solar system. Krethva needed more information before committing to an attack that might cost him ships and resources on Earth. Taejin's monitoring systems detected the change immediately. The fleet had stopped. His team erupted into cautious celebration, but Taejin raised his hand for silence. They've paused, but they haven't left. We bought time, not safety. Now comes the hard part. We have to maintain this illusion while they investigate. Hyun-soo, a military intelligence analyst, was monitoring alien communications channels when he noticed something strange. Commander, we're picking up new signals. Lots of them. These aren't from the Valthic fleet. Other species are watching us now. The transmission had been broadcast on wideband frequencies. While it was aimed at the Valthic, the message had propagated across the galaxy's communication networks. Dozens of alien civilizations, many of whom had been hiding from the Valthic for generations, suddenly detected the transmission and began monitoring Earth with intense interest. Dr. Yuna intercepted and translated several of these new signals. They're talking about us, she reported, her voice filled with wonder and fear. Species we never knew existed are discussing what made the Valthic stop. Some think we defeated them. Others think we're bluffing. But they're all watching to see what happens next. Ambassador Kijun recognized the diplomatic opportunity. If other species are watching, we need to maintain our appearance of strength. Any sign of weakness now, and the Valthic will attack immediately. The Valthic sent a probe toward Earth, a small automated vessel designed to scan the planet and verify the humans' claims. Captain Daeho tracked its approach with growing anxiety. Commander, that probe will reach orbital range in 3 hours. If it scans us properly, it'll see we're not as dangerous as we claimed. Taejin made a quick decision. Don't destroy it, but don't let it get too close. Use our satellites to project electromagnetic interference. Make it look like our defensive systems are active and disrupting its sensors. The Valthic need to believe we're deliberately blocking their scans to hide something dangerous. Daeho's team executed the plan perfectly. As the probe approached, Earth satellites activated, flooding the area with radio interference and electromagnetic noise. The probe's sensors received corrupted data, unable to get clear readings of Earth's surface or atmosphere. From the Valthic perspective, it looked exactly like humanity was hiding something. Krethva studied the probe's garbled transmission with growing frustration. The humans were actively blocking his scans. That suggested they really did have something to hide. But was it a genuine threat, or just more deception? He convened a council with his senior officers. Opinions? He demanded. The interference patterns are sophisticated, his technology officer reported. These humans have surprising skill with electromagnetic systems. Their blocking methods are crude but effective. Their weapons footage is concerning, added the tactical officer. Those atomic devices they demonstrated could damage our smaller vessels if used properly. And those biological agents could contaminate harvested resources. The intelligence officer pulled up data on the gamma-ray burst Dr. Hana had mentioned. This part of their story checks out. There was a significant radiation event in this region approximately 300 years ago. The timing aligns with their claimed conflict. Krethva drummed his claws on his command console. But we have no records of any species or entity in this region that would require such weapons to defeat. The humans claim they fought a Class Omega extinction event, but we don't know what that means. It could be anything. Or nothing. On Earth, more alien species began attempting contact. Some sent messages of curiosity. Others offered alliance against the Valthic. A few even sent warnings, telling humanity to flee if possible because the Valthic always returned eventually. Dr. Yuna worked frantically to translate and respond to these messages while maintaining the deception. We're getting communications from everywhere, she told Taejin. A species called the Thalon want to trade technology. The Kelthian remnant are asking if we really defeated what we claimed. 3 different civilizations are offering to send military aid if we're willing to form an alliance. Respond carefully, Taejin instructed. Be vague. Don't confirm or deny anything specific about what we supposedly fought. The mystery is working in our favor. The less they know for certain, the more they'll imagine. Jitwoo monitored the data patterns of alien communications. Commander, this is spreading fast. Our message has reached at least 40 different species in the past 12 hours. Some of them are sharing it further. Humanity just went from unknown to galaxy-wide famous in less than a day. Lieutenant Behrad discovered something troubling in the Valthic communications. Sir, they're trying to hack our networks. They're probing our internet, trying to find contradictory information that would expose our deception. Can they succeed? Taejin asked. Eventually, yes. Our internet is full of human history, entertainment, and information that contradicts our message. If they dig deep enough, they'll realize we were never quarantined and never fought the threat we described. Taejin made another quick decision. Then don't let them dig deep. Launch cyber countermeasures. Make accessing our networks difficult and dangerous. If they try to hack us, hit them back. Make them think our defensive systems are more than just messages. Rend. Offensive cyber warfare against an alien fleet. I never thought I'd get to do this. She assembled a team of the best hackers on Earth and launched a coordinated counterattack against the Valthic probes. They couldn't damage the alien ships, but they could make the Valthic computer systems experience crashes, data corruption, and mysterious malfunctions. The effect was immediate. Valthic technicians reported strange interference every time they tried to access human networks. Files would corrupt. Systems would freeze. It looked exactly like humanity had sophisticated cyber defenses specifically designed to protect quarantined information. Krethva slammed his appendage on his console in frustration. These humans were proving far more troublesome than expected. Every attempt to gather information was blocked or disrupted. The fleet had been stopped for nearly 2 days now, and he still didn't have clear intelligence on whether Earth was actually dangerous or just clever. His superiors in the Valthic High Command were demanding answers. Why had a harvest operation been delayed? Why was a primitive world causing such difficulty? Krethva had no good answers to give them. On Earth, Taejin watched the status displays with cautious hope. The Valthic fleet remained stationary. Every hour they waited was another hour humanity could prepare real defenses and build genuine alliances with other species, but he knew this couldn't last forever. Eventually, the Valthic would either call humanity's bluff or decide the risk wasn't worth investigating. Either way, a decision was coming soon. How much longer can we maintain this? Ambassador Kijun asked quietly. Taejin studied the data streams and communication patterns. Maybe another day. 2 at most. Then they'll either attack or leave. We've done everything we can to make them afraid. Now we wait to see if it was enough. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had hidden from the Valthic for generations watched Earth with amazement. The humans had done something no one else had accomplished in 1,000 years. They had made the Valthic collective hesitate. They had made the harvesters afraid. The question now was whether that fear would save humanity or only delay the inevitable. The fragile peace shattered on the 3rd day. A group of aggressive young Valthic commanders, frustrated by their warlord's caution, decided to test humanity's defenses without authorization. They took 3 scout vessels and 2 corvettes and broke away from the main fleet. Accelerating toward Earth's moon. Hyun-Soo detected the movement immediately. Commander, we have 5 vessels breaking formation. They're heading directly for our outer research station on the lunar surface. Taejin felt his stomach drop. The small research outpost housed only 47 people, including scientists and a handful of security personnel. It had no real weapons, no shields, nothing that could stand against even a single Valthic scout ship. Get me Captain Daeho and Major Sunhee, now. Sunhee commanded the security detail at the lunar research station. She had been a soldier for 15 years, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. The Valthic ships appeared on her scanners like falling stars, growing larger with each passing second. "All personnel, this is not a drill," she announced over the station's intercom. "We have incoming hostiles. Scientists, move to the emergency bunkers immediately. Security teams, arm up and prepare defensive positions. We're about to have company." Dr. Jinho, the station's head of experimental physics, rushed to Sunhee's command center. Major, we have the asteroid deflection system. It's not a weapon, but it generates a focused plasma beam strong enough to push space rocks. Maybe we can modify it. Sun-Hee looked at the mild-mannered scientist with new respect. How fast can you do it? Give me 10 minutes and your best technical people, Jin-Ho replied, already running calculations in his head. Captain Dae-Ho watched helplessly from Earth as the Valthic ships closed on the lunar station. His satellite network wasn't designed to target fast-moving vessels, and the aliens were already too close for him to intercept. Commander, I can't help them from here. They're on their own. Then we make sure their sacrifice isn't meaningless, Taejin said grimly. Record everything. Broadcast it on every frequency. If they're going to fight, the whole galaxy needs to see it. Jin-Ho and his team worked with desperate speed, reprogramming the asteroid deflection system's targeting protocols. The device had been designed to fire slow, sustained beams at stationary targets. Now they needed it to track moving ships and deliver maximum power in short bursts. This is going to burn out the whole system after maybe 3 shots, Jin-Ho warned Sun-Hee. And there's no guarantee it'll even damage their ships. The plasma temperature might not be enough to penetrate alien armor. 3 shots is better than none, Sun-Hee replied. Do it! The Valthic scout ships reached the lunar surface, their weapons charging. The lead commander, a young officer named Vethkar, opened a communication channel to the station. Humans of this outpost, you have 1 chance to surrender. Exit your facility unarmed, or we will destroy it with you inside. Sun-Hee activated her own communication system. Her voice was steady, cold as the vacuum outside. This is Major Sun-Hee of Earth Defense Forces. You want this station? Come and take it. Vethkar snarled at the defiance. These primitives didn't understand their position. He ordered his ships to open fire on the station's outer structures, intending to demonstrate their power and force a quick surrender. That's when Jin-Ho's modified weapon fired for the first time. The plasma beam, focused and superheated far beyond its normal operating parameters, lanced through space and struck the lead scout ship. The alien vessel's shields flared bright, held for 3 seconds, then collapsed. The plasma burned through the hull, cutting the ship nearly in half. On the Valthic command vessel, Krethva watched his sensors in shock. The scout ship's signature had just vanished. What happened? Did they destroy it? His tactical officer's voice trembled. The humans fired some kind of directed energy weapon. The power output exceeded our predictions by a factor of 10. One of our scout ships is completely disabled. The 4 remaining Valthic vessels scattered, taking evasive maneuvers. Vethkar couldn't believe what he'd just seen. These were supposed to be primitives with crude technology. That weapon had just killed 20 of his crew members in a single shot. Sun-Hee's security teams opened fire with their small arms through the station's airlocks, targeting the landing Valthic ground forces. The bullets barely scratched the aliens' armor, but the humans weren't trying to kill them. They were buying Jin-Ho time to recharge the plasma weapon. 30 seconds? Jin-Ho shouted. Watching his power indicators climb dangerously high, a Valthic corvette strafed the station's surface, its weapons tearing through the outer modules. 12 scientists died instantly as their section lost pressure. The station shook with each impact, alarms screaming throughout the facility. Sun-Hee coordinated her forces with military precision, rotating her teams to create the illusion of more defenders than she actually had. The Valthic ground troops advanced cautiously, confused by the resistance. These humans should have broken immediately under assault, but they kept fighting with a ferocity that seemed insane. The plasma weapon fired again, catching one of the corvettes as it made another attack run. The beam struck the ship's engine section, triggering a chain reaction of explosions. The corvette spiraled away, dead in space, its crew frantically evacuating to escape pods. Across the galaxy, dozens of species watched the battle through Earth's broadcasts. They saw humans in primitive spacesuits fighting armored Valthic soldiers in close quarters. They watched scientists, stern warriors defend their station with improvised weapons and desperate courage. They witnessed the impossible, humans damaging Valthic military vessels. Vethkar realized his mistake too late. These weren't helpless primitives. They were survivors who had learned to fight with anything available. Every human in that station was fighting like they expected to die, which made them unpredictable and dangerous. "Pull back," he ordered his remaining ships. "Regroup and reassess." But Sun He wasn't going to let them leave easily. "Fire!" she ordered. Jin-ho triggered the plasma weapon one final time. The overloaded system delivered every remaining erg of power in one massive burst. The beam caught the second corvette broadside, punching completely through its hull. The ship didn't explode. It simply stopped functioning, its systems fried by the electromagnetic pulse from the plasma impact. Then the weapon died, its components melting from the massive overload. Jin-ho stared at his dead console and smiled grimly. 3 for 3. Not bad for equipment that was supposed to push asteroids. The two surviving Valthic scout ships retreated to a safe distance, their crews shaken. They had lost 3 vessels and over 60 personnel to a station that should have fallen in minutes. Vethkar sent an emergency transmission to Krethva, his voice hollow with shock. "Warlord, the humans. They fought back. They destroyed our ships. Request immediate reinforcement and authorization to use maximum force." On the command vessel, Krethva watched the battle footage in silence. He saw humans fighting with a determination that bordered on madness. He watched them use mining equipment as weapons. He observed their soldiers holding positions even when wounded and outgunned. He noticed they never broke formation, never fled, never surrendered. These weren't the actions of a civilization that could be easily harvested. These were the actions of a species that had clearly survived something terrible by refusing to accept defeat. His intelligence officer spoke quietly. "Warlord, if this is how their scientists and researchers fight, imagine what their actual military forces are capable of. And we still don't know what they supposedly defeated 300 years ago." On Earth, Taejin watched the casualty reports coming from the lunar station. 23 dead. 18 wounded. The station was barely functional, but they had destroyed 3 Valthic ships and damaged a 4th. The exchange ratio was impossibly favorable for humanity. Dr. Yuna was inundated with new communications from alien civilizations. "Commander, the Kelthian remnant are asking to join an alliance. The Thalon are offering military technology. 6 different species are now requesting diplomatic contact. They saw what we did. They think we might actually have a chance against the Valthic." "What they saw," Taejin said slowly, "was humans refusing to surrender even when we should have lost. They saw us hurt the Valthic with improvised weapons and desperate tactics." He paused, understanding dawning. "They didn't see us win. They saw us make the cost of victory too high." Ambassador Keijun nodded. "And that changes everything. The Valthic harvest worlds because it's profitable and easy. We just proved we're neither." Krethva sat on his command throne, reviewing the battle data repeatedly. His superiors would demand answers. Why had he lost 3 ships to a minor outpost? Why was the harvest operation stalled? Why couldn't he verify if the human quarantine claims were real or false? For the first time in his long military career, Warlord Krethva faced a choice he had never confronted before. He could order a full-scale assault and crush Earth with overwhelming force. The planet would fall eventually, but the cost would be significant. These humans had proven they would fight for every meter of territory, destroy their own equipment rather than let it be captured, and die before surrendering. Or he could withdraw, report the world as not worth harvesting, and move on to easier targets. The Valthic High Command convened an emergency session. 17 warlords appeared on holographic displays, each one demanding answers from Krethva. The harvest operation had been delayed for 4 days. 3 ships had been destroyed by primitives. Resources had been wasted. Most importantly, the collective's reputation for unstoppable force had been damaged. "Explain yourself, Krethva," commanded the High Executor, supreme leader of the Valthic. "Why has a simple harvest become a military embarrassment?" Krethva chose his words carefully. "The humans are not as primitive as our initial scans suggested. They possess weapons capable of destroying our vessels. They demonstrate tactical abilities that suggest extensive combat experience. And they claim to be a quarantine zone following a major conflict, which we have been unable to verify or disprove. Then verify it, another warlord snapped. Send in ground forces. Occupy their planet. Break their resistance. At what cost? Krethva asked quietly. We lost 3 ships to their weakest outpost. If that's how their scientists fight, their military forces will be far more dangerous. A full invasion could cost us dozens of vessels and thousands of personnel. For what? A planet that may be contaminated with unknown threats? The High Executor's eyes narrowed. You believe their quarantine story? I believe they're dangerous enough that the cost of conquest outweighs the profit of harvest. That's all that matters. On Earth, Taejin knew the Valthic were at a decision point. The deception had worked better than expected, but it couldn't last much longer. He called his team together one final time. We need to send one more message. Not a threat. Not a bluff. The truth. The truth will expose everything we've done, Ambassador Taejin warned. Not that truth, Taejin replied. A different one. We tell them why they should fear humanity, but not because of weapons or quarantine zones. We tell them what we really are. Dr. Yuna understood immediately. You want to tell them about us. About humans. About what makes us dangerous. Exactly. They've seen our weapons and our will to fight. Now we show them our history. We show them why a species that nearly destroyed itself multiple times is still here. We show them what it means to be human. Wu and Beora assembled the final message while Dr. Hannah provided the historical context. They pulled footage from humanity's darkest and brightest moments. Ice ages that should have killed early humans. Plagues that reduced populations by thirds. Wars that consumed entire continents. And every single time humans survived. Not through superior technology or overwhelming power, but through adaptability, determination, and stubborn refusal to accept extinction. The message was crafted with brutal honesty. No encryption this time. No technical jargon or vague threats. Just a simple declaration of what humanity had endured and what that meant for anyone who tried to conquer them. Ambassador Taejin reviewed the final draft and nodded. This is perfect. It doesn't threaten them. It warns them. There's a difference. Taejin authorized the transmission. Captain Daeho sent it on every frequency, broadcasting to the Valthic fleet and the dozens of other species watching. The message played across the galaxy, and billions of beings heard humanity speak with one voice. To the Valthic collective and all who observe. You asked what we survived? You demanded to know what threat we defeated. The answer is simple. We survived ourselves. We are humanity. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us with ice and fire. We built civilizations and watched them fall to disease and disaster. We created weapons capable of destroying our entire planet and came within moments of using them. We have been to the edge of extinction a dozen times, not because of external threats, but because of our own capacity for destruction and our own refusal to surrender even to ourselves. The message continued, showing footage of human history. Ancient peoples crossing frozen wastes with stone tools. Medieval civilizations rebuilding after plagues killed millions. Modern nations pulling back from nuclear annihilation at the last second. Each example demonstrated the same truth humanity endured. You can conquer our world. Your technology is superior. Your ships are more powerful. In a direct military confrontation, you would eventually win. But understand what that victory means. You will not be fighting an army or a government. You will be fighting every human on this planet. We will resist in every city, every town, every home. We will sabotage your systems, poison your resources, and make every day of occupation cost you more than it profits you. We will turn our world into a graveyard for your ambitions. Krethva watched the message with growing unease. The humans weren't threatening with superweapons or hidden dangers. They were promising something far worse, endless, costly resistance. The message reached its conclusion. We are not asking you to fear our weapons. We are warning you to fear what we will become. You see a primitive species ready for harvest. We see another challenge to overcome. You see easy resources. We see another fight for survival, and survival is what we do best. You have a choice. You can spend years, maybe decades, trying to subdue a species that has never accepted defeat in its entire history. Or you can move on to easier targets. The choice is yours. But know this, if you come to Earth expecting conquest, you will find only war. And it will never, ever end. The transmission ended. Silence filled Taejin's command center. They had played their final card. No more deceptions. No more tricks. Just the honest truth of what humanity was and what they promised to do if invaded. Across the galaxy, the reaction was immediate. Species that had surrendered to the Valthic watched the message in stunned silence. They had accepted conquest because resistance seemed impossible. But humanity was offering a different model, resistance at any cost, forever. The Kelthian remnant, survivors of a Valthic harvest, sent a message that Dr. Yuna translated with tears in her eyes. You showed the galaxy how to say no. Now teach us how to fight back. Other civilizations followed. The Thalan offered technology exchanges. The Korvan provided stellar maps showing Valthic patrol routes. 6 different species requested military alliances. Humanity had become a symbol, the world that refused to accept its fate. In the Valthic High Command, the debate raged for hours. Some warlords demanded immediate invasion to crush this upstart species and restore the collective's reputation. Others argued for withdrawal, pointing out the terrible cost-benefit analysis. The High Executor finally raised his appendage for silence. He had ruled the Valthic for 300 years and conquered 70 worlds. He understood war and profit better than anyone in the collective. He studied the human message one more time, paying special attention to their history. I have seen thousands of species fall to our fleets, he said slowly. Some fought bravely, some surrendered quickly. None of them promised what these humans promise. They're not threatening us with death. They're threatening us with expense, with endless casualties and resource drain, with the kind of occupation that bleeds an empire dry over generations. He turned to Krethva. Your assessment? Krethva had been preparing for this moment. They will do exactly what they promise. The battle at their lunar station proved it. They fought with mining equipment and scientific instruments. They killed 60 of our warriors with improvised weapons. Their military forces will be 10 times worse, 20 times. And they have 8 billion individuals willing to fight. We could win, High Executor. But the cost would cripple this fleet for years. Maybe permanently. The High Executor made his decision. Withdraw the fleet. Mark this system as contested territory, not worth current harvest investment. We move to the next target. They'll see this as weakness, another warlord protested. They'll see this as efficiency, the High Executor corrected. We are harvesters, not conquerors. If a crop costs more to gather than it's worth, we leave it in the field. Let the humans have their victory. Let them celebrate. In 100 years or 1,000, when they're more advanced and the cost-benefit changes, we'll return. If they still exist? On Earth, Hyansu detected the change first. Commander, the Valthic fleet is moving. They're turning away from Earth. They're leaving. Taejin couldn't believe it. He checked the data himself, certain there must be a mistake. But the readings were clear. All 17 Valthic vessels were altering course, accelerating away from Earth's solar system. They were retreating. The command center erupted in celebration. People hugged, cried, and cheered. Dr. Yuna collapsed in her chair, overwhelmed by relief. Ji-woo and Bio-ra high-fived each other repeatedly. Captain Deho's image on the video screen showed the hardened military officer wiping tears from his eyes, but Taejin remained calm. He walked to the window and looked up at the stars, thinking about what they had accomplished and what it meant for humanity's future. Ambassador Kijun joined him. We did it. We saved the world. We bought time, Taejin corrected gently. They'll come back someday. Maybe not in our lifetimes, but eventually. And next time, we need to be actually ready, not just pretending. What do we do now? Taejin smiled for the first time in days. Now we do what humans do best. We survive. We adapt. We grow stronger. The Valthic gave us a gift today. They taught us we're not alone in the universe, and they taught the universe that humanity doesn't surrender. Those lessons are worth more than any technology or weapon.